right. Well, we had our morning footy crew put together our own ballots, but we weren't the only ones. We did this with the Golazo network at large, having everybody put together their top 10 lists. So shall we take a look at some of those? 10 through 6, and what our Golazo Network crew came up with our collective votes here. So in 10th place, you have Désiré Doué on 29 points, Pedri in 9th on 31, Kavica Kvaratskhelia in 8th on 38 points, Hakimi in 7th on 54, and Kylian Mbappe in 6th at 58. And that was a big surprise to me, y'all, because like I said, I didn't put anybody in my personal top 10 that didn't come away with the trophy. I know Mbappe still put up great numbers, but that to me feels like a little bit of Mbappe bias here.
It's impressive that Désiré Doué made the top 10, considering that his season really only took off from January until now, right? You're honestly really only considering for a Ballon d'Or, you're really only considering January to May. I think you could make same arguments of someone who's a front runner as a favorite to win this in Ousmane Dembélé, but his influence was much more heavy in PSG. But yeah, I wonder, are we gonna see, like, for example, Donnarumma in here?
That's the name I was gonna mention, because I don't think we're gonna see him in the top 5, but that's a glaring miss. A glaring omission for me. You can probably blame her for that, Tom.
Okay, I'll take the blame here.
He's in my top 10.
Might as well.
So I put Doué pretty high up on my list, I will admit, which then I learned Tony knocked Donnarumma out of that 10th place because of the points that he accrued from where I placed.
Wait, were you the last person to submit a ballot?
I was the last person to submit my ballot.
Wow.
You're normally first with all of this.
Am I really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you don't know me well enough, Tony, because I feel like I'm usually...
Well, now you better be first.
I'm always submitting my homework late. Well, you know what? I think for me, looking at Doué's performance in the Champions League final, I rated incredibly high for him. And traditionally, we see guys who are scoring goals winning the Ballon d'Or. So I didn't think Donnarumma had a chance.
Désiré Doué at first, gave him 15 points. That bumped them up to 29 total points.
Are you kidding?
To put Donnarumma out.
So the guy who got them to the finals in Donnarumma. Okay, I get it.
No,
I understand.
Okay, I'm sorry, Tony. I know that you're always going to favor the keepers. Well, let's now look at the top 5, because this is where it really matters. So starting with number 5, we have Vitinha, who earned 119 points on the Golazo Network voting, Nico.
Yeah, I mean, Vitinha was amazing, incredible this past season. The way that he was able to control the game, pop up in so many different areas of the field, and really dictate PSG's game. He really took a massive step forward in my eyes. On the elite stage of world football, right? He commanded games in that midfield. Obviously, everybody in PSG's midfield is critical to their success, but this guy is kind of the poster boy of why that midfield works so great.
Yeah, he's been the engine. We talked about it all Champions League season. He is my second favorite player in the world. Will become my favorite in the world, Aly, when Luka Modric finally retires. But he doesn't have to retire now, but he was outstanding.
Absolutely outstanding. That midfield trio was so well balanced, but the way that he drove everything, he was the conductor, almost never lost the ball, playing the ball forward, playing the ball, spraying it all over the pitch. Just a wonderful player to watch.
All right, so Vitinha coming in at number 5. Let's move it along to number 4, Tony. We have Mohamed Salah with 145 points.
Yeah, me personally, when we get to 1, I didn't struggle with number 1. I struggled with 2 through 5. That's where I you do that thing where you put Mo Salah in. Is he 4th? Is he 2nd? Is he 3rd? The amazing thing to me about Mo Salah this season, and we chatted about it throughout the year, was he was going through this contract dispute. And I mean, I shouldn't say dispute, issue, renewal, whatever you want to call it. And he did what he did with Liverpool. Literally everything that the guy touched, whether it was an assist, which he had 23 assists on the season, went in the back of the net. It was amazing the season that he had. So I struggled with, do I put him 2nd? It's Liverpool. They win a Premier League title. Okay, not great in Champions League. So I moved him and that group of players a bunch of times. But if someone wanted to tell me that they thought that Mo Salah was the Ballon d'Or winner for them this year, for me, it would be hard to argue.
Really? Okay, so can I play devil's advocate here? Mo Salah and Liverpool, I think we can all agree, didn't have a tough end of the season fighting for the Premier League title. They had it wrapped up with quite a few weeks left to go.
Because he was so good.
Because he was so good, yes. Yes.
Because you put up a Ballon d'Or worthy season.
Okay, great. But in the Carabao Cup final, where was he?
Carabao Cup.
In the round of 16, when Liverpool got knocked out by PSG, where did he put up numbers in either of those games?
That's what did it for me. That's what pushed him down.
That's what moved him down in my list
because he
as
lived
well.
in Nuno Mendes' pocket for 2 matches.
And I think that's the decider on why Liverpool isn't held, like the entire Liverpool team isn't held in such high regard in this voting, right? If they would have had a deeper run in Champions, and they could have, it was a penalty kick shootout. That was the difference between them and PSG. Like, they were splitting hairs, really.
One goal, one match can change everything.
Right?
We talked about
and it's the destiny of football. Maybe we are talking about a Ballon d'Or season. This guy was ridiculous. And talk about recency bias. I think you're right in the sense that they had the Prem wrapped up so early that people weren't excited about the Prem. At one point, we were even discussing, is this the most boring Prem season ever? Which is like, okay. I think that also in voting, in the actual Ballon d'Or voting, is going to work against Mo Salah.
Yeah, me personally, I can't look at one game when we're talking about a Ballon d'Or candidate and say because someone didn't score a goal in one game, like I wouldn't put him where I think he belongs in the hierarchy of that season of world football. But I certainly get it.
Yeah.
Because in general, big players have to show up in big moments.
29 goals, 18 assists in a Premier League season. That's
unbelievable
stupid.
Premier League numbers, but not all games are created equal, Tony Meola. Some carry a little bit more weight than others. Now let's move it along to number 3 on our Golazo Network list, and that is Raphinha from Barcelona.
Yeah, I had him number 2 on my list, but what an incredible season he had for Barcelona. 57 appearances, 34 goals, 22 assists. That's almost a goal contribution every single match. He was brilliant in all competitions for them. He had a hat trick against Bayern, 3 goals in the UCL round of 16, a goal in the quarterfinals, 2 goals in the semifinals. He played a little bit. He played on the left. He played through the center. He played on the right. I think Lamine Yamal got most of the headlines this year just because it's a 17-year-old doing otherworldly things. But this man, Raphinha, was so consistent and so excellent throughout the season. He deserves to be in the top 3. Wouldn't be upset if he got a number 1 vote or few of them. I put him at number 2 because I think it is respectful of what he did this season and everything he accomplished.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with that. Barcelona, they win the domestic treble. They were so close to making it to a Champions League final, and Raphinha, just one of a few players on this Barcelona team to put up insane numbers this year on a team that just scored a boatload of goals.
Consider where he was before, right? Xavi couldn't get the best out of Raphinha. They were thinking of selling him at the start of last season. Like a year ago, we were talking about Raphinha out the door rather than in, and Hansi Flick revolutionized this guy, made him into one of the best players in the world, which is pretty incredible to see. His consistency, he was a punisher, really. In the big games, too, he always delivered. So, good on Raphinha. It's great to see him here.
Can I just make a note? I'm kind of surprised we didn't see Robert Lewandowski on this list. He put up some crazy numbers this season for Barcelona in every competition. But moving it along, Nico, to number 2, and not a big surprise here to see Raphinha's teammate, Lamine Yamal.
Yeah, I mean, Lamine Yamal, we've talked ad nauseum about this kid. Now 18, but he put up this season as a 17-year-old. Imagine what he's going to do when he's hitting his prime. He's so good, and it's beyond the stats. I don't need the stats to talk about Lamine Yamal. Watch a football game, and what do you feel when you watch him play? It gives you that different feeling, and that in itself, I think, is enough to warrant, all right, this guy is special, right? For us to put him in that echelon of players that he's just different. I see very few people in the world that play football and that it's contagious. It was messy at one point, and I haven't really felt that same energy in my body when I'm watching a football game. And this guy's doing what he's doing. Here are the stats for you. He's different.
And again, another guy, Aaron, if you made the argument, if someone wants to say, are you crazy? This is the best footballer in the world. You can't argue with him, right? And I think we know who's coming at number 1. But when you look at Lamine Yamal, this won't be the last time he'll be at this part of the list. He's going to be on top of the list at some point because that's how good he is.
One of the coolest videos I've seen is a mirrored video of Lamine Yamal, and it is just like a taller Neymar. He looks to be Neymar reborn. He's got the whole swagger, the ability to dribble, but his vision, his passing, his maturity throughout matches when he steps up to the big moments, he's destined for greatness. He's already great.
He really is just something else. And no matter what happens this Ballon d'Or, you got to imagine this guy's going to win one, if not
podium.
a lot more in his career.
Podium.
Okay, that brings us to number 1 and Ousmane Dembélé. I mean, Tone, what else can you say about the guy who has just meant everything to PSG this season?
This is amazing to me because it was, I think, 2018 or 19. I went down to watch Barcelona play against Napoli in a friendly at the Hard Rock.
I was there.
Were you there? Okay. And you remember what position he played in that game?
No, I don't.
Played as a right back. And I went home and I told all my friends, this guy's the best right back in the world. This guy's going to be the best right back for years. And of course, he was an attacking player, but that's where he played in that match. And I'm thinking to myself, remember, he's had some discipline problems over the years. He's had issues where he's been benched, where he's been sat and left off team rosters. He's straightened himself out here, right? He's gotten himself to the top of world football. A guy that can attack with anybody in the world, passing vision, movement, finishing. The guy's got everything. What an outstanding season, and of course, rewarded with a Champions League title.
Yeah, his explosion from January to now was simply extraordinary. So much so that he became the best player in the world. He was unstoppable on a tear that led PSG into a Champions League final and to win it with emphasis. We are so excited about this PSG team, almost calling it a dynasty before it even is a dynasty because they play so well. And without Dembélé, they're not at that level.
So if the Club World Cup final weighed in to your decision in a guy like Cole Palmer, what about for a guy like Dembélé and this PSG team that really just looked, second best that whole game?
Yeah, in one game though. You can have an off game. You grab this entire sample size of an entire year. They were far beyond, like by a country mile, the best team in the world. And then I think Barcelona had some arguments, but I can poke more flaws in Barcelona than I can in PSG.
Yeah. Here's another look. And every single person who voted did have Dembélé at least in their top 5, with 12 of the 17 voters putting him in first place. So, yeah, nothing egregious here yet. Nothing making us shake our heads.
This checks out. This all checks out.
This checks out. Well, what about for Lamine Yamal, who I think a lot of us also not only had in the top 5, but pretty high up the list. Reminder that he is the second odds favorite to win Ballon d'Or. He came in with the second place finish on our list with 189 total points, had 4 out of 17 first place votes, 6 out of 17 second place votes. And when it comes to the top 5, there's one person who didn't include Lamine Yamal in their top 5.
Aly,
Don't look at me. Let's take a look at the votes by league. So not really a big surprise here after PSG's Champions League win. Ligue 1 took the most votes from our analysts, with Raphinha and Lamine Yamal putting La Liga in second, followed by the Premier League in third, Bundesliga and Serie A with just 6. And then as for votes by club, PSG, well, yeah, no big surprise there. They lead the way, followed by Barcelona, then Liverpool, Real Madrid fourth. Did they win something this year? I don't think
but that's all Kylian Mbappe, right? It's,
yeah.
I think it's skewed the way that you look at it.
We'll get
There
you
were
some
some Vinny
votes.
Jr.
Europe's top scorer will get you some votes.
Vini,
Okay.
Valverde, Mbappe, but if you don't win a title, I think it's very difficult to.
Now let's take a look at our top 10 Ballon d'Or ballots, and we're going to start with Tony. So take us through your top 10. How did you vote on this
As soon
one?
as it pops up, I'll remember. So the top 3. So mine were really split 5 and 5. Like I rotate again. Dembélé was number 1 for me. That was from the start. If you'd asked me a month ago, right after Champions League, he was going to win it no matter what. This is where I rotated. And for me, the most painful one was Vitinha, because you guys know how much I love Vitinha. But I just thought in the end, Mo Salah with the Premier League title, I get it was wrapped up. But this was the area that pained me the most. And here was just credit for great seasons, right? He didn't win a title, but he did win the Golden Boot, right, in Europe. Harry Kane, for me, still, I think, a little bit underrated with all of this, so I had him in there. Cole Palmer, even though the second half of the season wasn't good, I thought he was so outstanding in the first half of the season. Doué, we talked about, and of course, Donnarumma. I had Donnarumma as high as 8. I moved him when I put Désiré Doué back into the picture. I putzed around with a little bit, but for me it was 5 that really had a chance and 5 that really didn't have a chance.
All right. Very good. I like your thinking, Tone. Well, maybe if you'd put Donnarumma higher, he would have made the Golazo Network top 10.
It was my fault he's out. I get it.
I'm just taking the blame off of myself. Okay, now let's take a look at a West Ballon d'Or ballot.
Not too much different from Tony's. I kind of went with the same kind of vibe. Like my top 5 was set. I had to figure out who was going to be there from 2 to 5. I felt like Raphinha had the body of work throughout the season across all competitions to be second. Lamine Yamal, off the strength of what he did, everything he did, I felt like he should be third. Vitinha and Mo Salah were tough for me. Mo Salah had to be in the top 5. I felt like maybe it's a little disrespectful to put him at 5, but it was the fact that I wasn't excited by what he did in Champions League. He had an incredible Premier League campaign, but Vitinha, the way that he led this PSG team, he had to be in the top 5, but it's a little tough for a central midfielder, I think, to go higher than that, because you have to have an incredible season. Shout out, Raji. Now, when we go to the bottom 5, I had to have Donnarumma in there, so I tossed him in at 10. Achraf Hakimi had a fantastic season, an incredible Champions League. Nuno Mendes pocketed just about every single right winger in the world throughout Champions League. Kylian Mbappe, if you finish top scorer in Europe, you got to be in the rankings somewhere. And then Pedri, fantastic season overall.
All right, okay, I respect your rationale for Mbappe, even though I wouldn't have put him in mine, and I didn't. But Nico, you're next.
I see Pedri in your top 10, and now I'm asking myself if I put Pedri. I did put Pedri in my top 10.
I was going to say, you were on the the entire season.
And I am. And there's a couple of interesting players here that I kind of bumped up. Ousmane Dembélé is obviously first. I think we've talked ad nauseum 1 through 3. And then Vitinha, I think he was so essential to the success of PSG. I was so floored by the way that he played this season. I actually put him at 4. Hakimi also, his incisiveness as a right back. He's the best right back in the world, right? And then next after him is probably Fede Valverde at this point for the 2004-2025 season, right? Vicha Kvaratskhelia was so good throughout the entire season. I mean, he was on a Napoli side that won a Serie A title and then switched to a PSG side that won everything. You've got to take that into consideration. Mo Salah, if Liverpool had a deeper run in the Champions League, I probably would have bumped him up more. But if you want to tell me he's 3rd, 4th on your list, I'm totally okay with that. Pedri is awesome. Same goes for Barcelona. I couldn't convince myself to put him a little bit higher than any of these guys just because of the titles won, and I do think the titles are important, and I do think certain games are important as well. I do weight those critical games because if you're the best in the world, you got to be the difference maker in those games. And Donnarumma was a huge difference maker, but sadly, goalkeepers don't get the love that forwards do, right? So
I know.
He's 9th on my list. And then a late addition to all of this because of Conference League, but especially because of Club World Cup, Cole Palmer goes in there.
We need a separate award for the goalkeepers, Tone.
No, we do have a separate award for the goalkeepers.
Like a Ballon d'Or, but just for the goalkeepers.
It does. It exists. La Vicina Award. It exists.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Then that's where Donnarumma can get his win.
Donnarumma's probably going to win that.
Golden Boot out because we have an award for the
fine.
forwards. That we just take them out too. Before you know it, no one will be in the.
I'm talking about adding a second award. Okay, doesn't matter. Here's a look at my Ballon d'Or ballot.
Look at number 4.
Yes, I did put Désiré Doué highly because of the titles won, because of his role in the Champions League final. He had the 2nd most Champions League goals on this PSG team. That was the trophy that did it for them. That was the one that had eluded this club. The fact that these players were a part of that for PSG is why I have 3 PSG players in the top 5. Mohamed Salah, maybe I would actually move lower. Robert Lewandowski, I was surprised to not see on many people's top 10. I thought the numbers he put up on a Barcelona team that won a domestic treble were incredible. And Harry Kane made my list as well. But yeah, the top 5, the top 4, really, I think a PSG player is so deserving of winning the Ballon d'Or this year. But again, if Lamine Yamal won it for all the reasons we've talked about, I wouldn't be entirely surprised. And yes, players like Vitinha, Pedri, so just vital to, the midfields of 2 incredible teams this season.
I feel like this exercise is so difficult because it's comparing apples to oranges, right? Because I didn't have Harry Kane on my list, but you look at the numbers, you look at his contribution for Bayern in such an important season. How do you not have him on a top 10, right? But then at the same time, that would have meant leaving like a Donnarumma out. It's like, how do you not have Donnarumma in your top 10? You're going to leave somebody that deserves to be in a top 10 list out. How do you weigh what a goalkeeper did? Because Donnarumma if Donnarumma didn't play for PSG would not have won the Champions League. You could say the same thing for Ousmane Dembélé, right? So how do you weigh that in a list, in a top 10 list?
Yeah, it's really, really difficult. And I learned a lesson from one of my old coaches, Bora Milutinovic. When you're looking at players, he wasn't a numbers guy, clearly. And you guys know, I'm not a huge numbers guy. Like, I look at moments, and he always used to go, when you look at a player, you have to have. Yeah, that's what he said. You have to have.
What
there's no words. You have to be able to sniff out the players that you like.
Like a sommelier
We
or
went
something.
past the eye test to the smell test.
The smell test, but that was his thing, and I learned such a lesson from that. For me, the way I look at the game and the players that I like. I told you, Luka Modric has been my guy for 15 years. Vitinha is now my guy. Like, those kind of players are attractive to me. So Dembélé was outstanding, and his numbers were outstanding, and he won, and he did everything.
Right.
But I don't look at 52 goals has to be here, and then 40 is not as good a season. You know what I mean?
Right. Look at who you're scoring goals against and what fashion you are. Right. It's different. So I do think if the Ballon d'Or was a thing, it would change a little bit, right? Lamine Yamal might be first, because if there's anybody that has that, it's Lamine Yamal,
It's
right?
Yamal, right? Yeah, that's Yamal.
Okay, I hope nobody's grossed out watching with all of our.
É fútbol. É fútbol.
But that's.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Around the world, look at the game. They don't look at it and go, 52 is better than 45. That's not how you look at the game. You look at the game by the sense of what gets you out of your chair. Right?
Yeah.
What makes you go, I'm going to watch the TV today?
That's
But what about who makes you want to smell the TV? Okay.
Yeah, it's the palpable energy. It's the football, right? What they have, what they put together. That when you look at Lamine Yamal, you get off your chair. You look at a Dembélé, you do get off your chair because he was so magical. Yeah, it's. I know what Bora says. It comes from a point of view of senses. What heightens your senses?
Exactly, yeah.
And there are only a handful of players that have, in the last several years, that heightened that sense. And we're getting a great gift in Lamine Yamal, a 17-year-old. I don't remember when the last time a 17-year-old was doing that. So if you want to cast numbers aside, because numbers and stats and all, that's one thing. But football, who has football? Who has that touch? Who has that sense?
For players that
who
make
has
us feel things again.
Right.
Yeah, and the reality.
To make me feel something.
The reality is that not only do a lot of these guys make you feel something, they also have the numbers to back it up as well.
No
It's
doubt.
why they are some of the world's absolute best